Alright, good evening everybody. It is, what are we, Sunday? Alright, so good evening everybody. It's Sunday, August 10th, 2025. And we are on a night bus, STM Montreal night bus, the 361 going south. And it's been a while since I did a night bus. And I know Bigfoot now Chungus, aka Pinhead, was requesting a night bus ride. If you want to check out his channel, he has a lot of night bus rides on there. I'll put a link in my video description. I'm going to open up this window here to get some air. So his style of filming buses is to film right from the back, and he does that probably to get the engine sound. For me, I film sort of near the back so you can get the engine sound, but also because I'm very sensitive to the heat and we are in a heat warning, I do like the natural ventilation of an open window. And we are on bus number 29-165, I believe. No, sorry, 29-065, which is an early 2009 bus. So I'll be taking this to Berri-UQAM metro station, rather than a few stops after where the line ends, which is Plaza d'Armes. So I won't be missing that much of the route. There's a Laval STL bus, 2017 STL bus, Laval. So again, we're on a 2009 Nova Bus LFS. And I think the early 2009 buses were the last buses of the second gen series of buses. So here we are on Berri Street. So this street goes all the way from here, which is Hunsett-Cartierville, all the way down into the Ville-Marie district, downtown Montreal, more or less. And here is Henri-Bourassa Boulevard right here. So my opinion of the early 2009 buses, I like them. I know they get mixed reviews. This one I like. Really comfortable. And it's when the seats started changing. It's when the seats started to become really thin. That's what I think made a lot of Montreal STM buses uncomfortable. So when you hear people referring to scrap, you hear Alton and a couple others say scrap, I think it's the seats themselves that define the comfort of a bus, as well as the suspension. So for example, these seats here, you can see they're pretty thick. But starting in late 2009, they became very thin. And the fabric that they use, it's pretty good on these seats here. But when they're on really thin seats, it makes for an uncomfortable ride. It sort of doesn't absorb the impact of bumps. I think that's the theory of why buses between late 2009 up up until the hybrid series of buses, which was what, 2016, I want to say? I think it was 2016. So any diesel buses between late 2009 up until 2016, when hybrid buses started being introduced, those are the buses I found the most uncomfortable. I'm talking about Montreal STM buses. What's interesting is EXO, STL, RTL, buses made in those years, same buses are actually more comfortable, and that's because the seats themselves, I think, are designed better. Now, when the hybrid buses came along, that's when we had those, and they're still used now, standard plastic seats. There's no fabric on it, it's thin plastic seats. Those are actually fine comfortable. They are a bit slippery, but those are more comfortable than any buses between 2009, late 2009 and 2016, including the articulated Nova buses. So yeah, I mean, everyone has their opinion. I mean, to me, what makes or breaks a comfortable bus ride is the seating. So let me know what you think in the comments. I mean, I know Elton, he thinks it's also the suspension, which arguably you could say as well. That's why he calls them scrap buses. I don't even know if he calls, I can't remember, does he call the hybrid buses scrap? Hybrid buses I like. Hybrid buses I really like. New Flyer bus I like. The short range electric bus that was on the 36 line, which I haven't seen recently. I don't know what happened to it. The short range Nova Bus, electric Nova Bus, which is a Nova Bus LFS, which I think was from 2016 or 2019. I think it was 2019, can't remember. But it used to run on the 36 and it would be short range electric bus. Those I like. I've never tried a long range electric Nova Bus, so I haven't tried the Nova Bus LFS Plus yet. So I can't comment on that. So I'll occasionally change views here. Even put the wide angle camera on. Also, the way that the engine is located, you see the engine here in the back, this is early 2009, that's when these engines started being moved, I believe, to the bottom back. You have that engine block here, that was typical of all buses. That was typical of all Nova buses up until late 2009. So every Nova Bus LFS series, from first gen all the way up, that was in what, 1996, 1997. Every bus, Nova Bus LFS, had the engine like this one here in the back. That block. And what they ended up doing was moving the engine, I believe, to the bottom back so that it allowed more seating. And that, I think, also may have contributed to a bit of the uncomfort. I'm not saying I know about the physics of it or anything like that, but maybe something to do with the weight distribution. That could also define the comfort level of a bus ride. Now, if you go back to the GM New Look era and the Nova Bus Classics, you remember those engines were also in the bottom, I think the bottom back of the bus. And of course, for the hybrids, the New Flyer electrics, the hybrids, short range electrics, long range electrics, Nova buses, those engines are also in the back bottom. I think the New Flyers, the engines are actually in the middle of the back. because the new flyers don't actually have any back windows, if you notice. So here's Crémazie Metro Station, one of my favorite stations because of that nice work of art depicting the solar system. By the way, it is interesting that the Metro is still open right now because it's Saturday into Sunday, but they still have a night bus running, which is interesting. I wonder why they do that, because this route basically takes the route of the Orange Line between Henri-Bourassa and Berri-UQAM, even further south. So I'm not sure why they run a night bus while the actual Metro is still running. Maybe Pinhead or someone can answer. I could be wrong, but I think, now that I'm thinking about it, I think some of the diesel buses, the Nova Bus LFS diesels, I think some of them actually had the engine in the middle back, because there was somewhere the back window was higher, lower. I'll have to double check the specifics, but I know this design here of the engine block in the back on the left side, that was very typical of basically every Nova Bus LFS made from 1996 up until late 2009 or early 2009. Now, if you want to look at the specifics of buses, there's a great website that has the fleet of every transit agency's buses. I'll put a link in the video description, you can check that out. So it tells you the roster of every bus line, every transit agency, at least in the Montreal area and beyond. Not just the active ones, but the retired ones. Sometimes it's not updated, but another thing about these seats with fabric, I think they got rid of them because of the fact that, well, they're hard to clean. Gum and stuff gets embedded in them and it's really difficult to clean. Me, I don't like the fabric seats. I prefer plastic seats in terms of hygiene. However, in terms of comfort, of course, if you guys remember, you ever had the chance to take the GM New Look buses, those were really beautiful seats, thick leather seats with cushions. Now there are some EXO buses that have nice seats that are like cushions. They're not plastic seats, they're really cushiony. When I was on the bus a couple of weeks ago from Mont Saint Hilaire, that bus route I was on had really comfortable seats. And there's the 193 Jerry, by the way, right there. They had really nice, comfortable, cushiony seats. So the thing about these buses is, I mean, in general, they have the same design, but each transit agency can modify it in their own way. For example, the hybrids, some transit agencies, and even for the STM for a certain amount of time, they would have a nice roof in the front of the bus covering, I think, where the batteries are, or in front of the batteries. There's like a nice dome. I like that design. I think RTL, which is on the South Shore of Montreal, most of their buses have that nice roof dome in the front. So most night buses are actually quite fast. They go quite fast. This one's going slower than usual. I think that's maybe because maybe the Metro's still in service, I don't know. By the way, we're the only passengers on this bus right now, so looks like somebody's getting on. Now, another thing worth mentioning, and I know for the real diehard transit fans, the bus fans that really know their stuff, of course, all these different years and generations and models of Nova buses had different transmissions. And there was a friendly debate. Bigfoot Malchungus, aka Pinhead, him and some others, they were debating what's the best transmission sound in a Nova Bus LFS. There was a big debate about that, and there was recordings shared of the sound. So there's so many aspects to buses, whether it's sound, transmission, seating, suspension, design, look, lighting. Even lighting is a big factor when it comes to even the comfort of a bus ride. It's maybe a subconscious thing. For a while they made yellow. They did an experiment. It was like a test, and those buses are still there, where they put yellow tinted lighting, and they said that that yellow type of lighting cut down on anxiety for transit users. I actually liked those yellow lights on those buses. Not sure if there was fans that liked them. Not sure there was transit fans that liked those yellow lights, but I liked them. I'll say this too, I know, I'm not saying everyone, but in general, most of the transit fans that I've come across are too young to have ever experienced GM New Look buses, Nova Classic buses. A lot of yous out there probably never even experienced the early first generation of Nova Bus LFS. Came out in, I think, 1996. I have to double check. I remember very specifically in 1996. I would have been like 10 years old back then, maybe 10 or 11, 10, 11 years old. I remember my very first ride on a Nova Bus LFS. It was so exciting. It was a whole new feel, whole new sound. And back then, the early Nova Bus LFS generations, they had, it was sort of like this here, very similar to this here, but it was a little bit more dangerous. It was that step that led to the back. It was nicknamed the alligator or the crocodile because the bus moved too fast. You would basically get sucked into that step and fall down. It sort of was like an alligator jumping at you. I remember that. First ride I took, somebody almost tripped, and the guy is like, that thing is like an alligator. So yeah, I mean, 1990, I think it was 1996. I'm sure it was 1996 when the Nova Bus LFS started coming out, low floor system buses. And of course, the whole reason why the Nova Bus and buses in general got redesigned to the low floor system was a very good reason, and that was to increase accessibility for people that are using wheelchairs, strollers, shopping carts, reduce mobility. That's why they lowered the floor of the buses. And in fact, I think, I'm talking about where the engine was located on, the GM New Look and everything. Could be wrong. It might have actually been on the floor, under the floor of the bus, and that's why the buses were so high. But so by lowering the floor system of the bus, I think they had to move this engine to the back. I don't know the specifics, but all I know is that I remember very clearly, sort of, the first time I rode a Nova Bus LFS, 1996 or 1997. I remember that transmission sound, and it was really exciting. So for you transit fans, bus fans that, sort of, no pun intended, but like the newer generation of buses, you haven't experienced those older buses. If you ever get the chance, if they ever bring them out for like charter rides or whatever, I highly suggest you take the opportunity. Take the opportunity to ride one, because it's truly a different experience. I mean, the GM New Look buses were probably my personal favorite. They were out right before the Nova Bus Classics. The GM New Looks were, like I said, they had cushion seats, leather seats. They had that fishbowl design in the front. And they had that beautiful Detroit diesel engine sound. If you watch Elton's videos, you'll see. By the way, if you're wondering where we are, we're on Saint-Denis and Beaubien Street. Now, when I first started my YouTube channel back in 2015, I started my YouTube channel in December of 2015. Fortunately, I think I just missed the last of the Nova. Wait, there's a Crown Victoria car. I know some of you like Ryan are fans of those. Nice Crown Vic back there. Then you have those crappy Teslas that I don't think should even be in this country right now for political reasons that I'm not going to get into. But anyway, going back to what I was saying, you know, when I first started my channel, I think it was just after the last Nova Bus Classics were pulled from the road. Speaking of buses, there's the Belchas garage right there. So I was just at this garage the other day taking some nice pictures. I should have done a walk around of it on the outside. These guys have the, like this one, early 2009 buses mostly. And of course, it's also worth mentioning another thing. Right now, for the STM for Montreal, this agency within Montreal, the oldest buses right now that are in service are 2007 Nova Bus LFS. So those are probably going to be pulled out of service sometime later this year. We have a handful of them. We have a little bit more 2008 Nova Bus LFS. Those will probably be retired soon. So if you do the math, I mean, 2007 Nova buses, those were made, of course, in 2007, which was about what, we're talking now, 18 years ago, 17 years ago. So I think that's the average lifespan of a bus traditionally. Depends on how it's used, how it's treated, how much maintenance it's given. Really incredible. And I hate not doing this. I should have done it. STL in Laval, they had a 1998 Nova Bus LFS first generation bus up until recently, I think 2-3 years ago. That thing was still running. I should have filmed a ride on that thing. There's videos out there. But it goes to show you that bus, I mean, goes way back to 1996. 1997, 1998, there's still some buses that are used in bus driving schools that go back to the first Nova Bus LFS ever made, first gen. But anyways, I think the earliest buses I have on my channel for rides, they're 2001, 2002 Nova Bus LFS. But what's amazing is since I started my channel, and it's evolved to in such a way that I've appreciated older buses now more than ever, because I know a lot of the newer transit fans, and I'm in the Discord community, and like I was saying earlier, I'm probably, and they joke about this, I'm the uncle of the community. I'm probably, I'm 39 and I'm probably the oldest person, one of the oldest people on Discord in the transit community. Most of them are in their teenage years, 20s. I know there's a RTL driver, AJ, he's in his early 30s. I'm gonna try to arrange a ride with him. He's also on Discord, big bus fan, very big bus fan. But I'm saying in general, I mean, I've started to appreciate now the fact that there's so many young transit fans out there, and they're appreciating the older buses. And it's reminding me, don't take it for granted. Document the buses, document the bus rides. If you're just starting a YouTube channel and you want to start a transit channel on YouTube, do it. Go for it. This is the time. You'll get pleasure out of it, you'll get satisfaction, and you'll be doing a great service. That's why, when I first started my channel, it was pretty much for fun, but as time went on, I started to take it more seriously and realize, I'm documenting history. I'm recording certain things that aren't going to be around much longer, whether it's the MR90s or whatnot. When the MR90s were retired, I filmed some MR90 rides on the Dumontagne ride, and I enjoyed it, I loved it, but it wasn't until I heard transit fans talking about how precious they were and how much they were loved after they were retired. That's when I really started to appreciate what my channel's about. I think I should make a podcast talking about this. I think that's going to be my next podcast topic. Trying to maybe encourage others to start a transit channel, YouTube transit channel. Not just a transit channel in general, like Alton has, walking around, checking out old buildings, documenting history. It's all about documenting. So anyway, it's just a little bit of a positive rant there. That's a positive rant. So kudos to, people like Pinhead, aka Bigfoot Malchungus, Liam, Ulyss. I can go on and name so many transit fans out there, younger transit fans that are, so appreciative of transit and making games like Skinflick and Can. These guys are really good in terms of what they're doing and appreciation of documenting history. So I think my transit app's running, so we got 13 more stops. Maybe I'll take it to Place d'Armes. I don't know, we'll see. Now I'm inspired to make a new podcast episode talking about what I'm talking about here. So we're now in the Plateau Montreal region. All these bus stops are getting remade, upgraded, updated, new look.
Prochain arrêt, Saint-Denis, Marianne. Prochain arrêt, Saint-Denis, Rachel.
Sorry guys, trying to find a, there we go, focus here.
Prochain arrêt, Saint-Denis, Duluth.
Also shout out to Nicholas, Reload Buff, some fellow YouTubers that live around here.
Prochain arrêt, Saint-Denis, droit.
There's another 2009. That's 29-035, so same series as this one.
Prochain arrêt, chez Berri.
One thing I do miss as well about the older buses is, well, the bell is to have that ding. This is like more of an electronic bell. Can't recall when they changed the bells to this type of bell from the traditional metal bell. I think this was changed maybe 2007 or 8. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. Probably am. Somebody out there will probably leave a comment letting me know.
Prochain arrêt, Berri-UQAM.
Oh, we got Fire Engine 216. Shout out to you, Quebec Buff. There's 416. Oh, so we're very close to Berri-UQAM right now, so. Yeah, I think I'm going to end the ride at Berri-UQAM, guys. So nice little ride there we had. So I'm going to get off at the next stop here. So like I said, this bus goes a little bit past Berri. A little southwest of Berri, I think to Place d'Armes or something. Now I'll give you guys another look at the outside of this bus here in a moment. As we get off here. Yeah, there we go, guys. 2009 Nova Bus LFS. So your engine is right there, of course. So yeah, that's it, man. Hopefully you enjoy that. So as always, if you like what you see, hit the like button, subscribe, turn on your notification bells. And as always, more videos to come. Thanks for watching.